100% is huge. 100% is big in a lot of different ways. I love that you brought up the state stuff, because in the world of the state stuff, you're also able to do your, like you had talked about, right? And it really depends on the state, but your property tax exemptions, your automobile registration exemption, really. Some states require you to have the blue square handicap license plate, but you're saving money on your car, right? So just something to look at. Definitely look at your states. 100% also allows you to obtain your DoD ID card, which is a nice little extra benefit. I mean, I enjoy mine. If you're not a retiree, you don't have a DoD ID card anymore. Unless you become 100%, then you can go get it. Is it absolutely necessary? No. But what it does allow you to do, right, is it allows you to get your spouse and dependent children ID cards, so then they can then go on base themselves without you. So if you have a base that's nearby, or if you utilize the commissary and you have just your VA ID card, sure, you can get on, but you have to bring your spouse with you and you guys got to go together. So getting the DoD card and having them get one allows them that flexibility to not go with you, right? I think that one of the biggest things about 100%, especially when you're talking about P&T, permanent and total, is the shoulders being able to relax a little bit, because you feel as though you kind of now been wrapped in some protective cloak, right? And that is true to a point, right? That you do have that kind of extra layer of protection, meaning that the VA has now formally, in a very formal way, said your conditions that took you to 100% are deemed never to get better, only to get worse. And unless a fraud, we're just going to leave you alone, right? And here's the funny thing. When they talk about, unless it was in the event of fraud, what they're not saying is if we screwed up. They're not saying that. Screwing up is not fraud, right? For example, if the VA rated your left knee, but they were supposed to rate your right knee, and they never caught it, and it's been 20 years, they're not going to sever that. They just call it, well, unless you were in cahoots with the person that worked at the VA and you had some sort of fraudulent, thing going on. But if it was just a mistake on the VA side, you're that protected to where even if it was a mistake on their side, you're protected from that. So there is that, and I think that there is a value in that, and I think that that's why a lot of people want to hit that permanent and total, just so they don't have to feel like they're looking over their shoulder and worried about the VA taking their rating. I think that I also want to throw in there here real quick, Clay, before we end it, is the 10-year rule and the 20-year rule, right? So the 10-year rule protects your rated condition. The VA is not going to sever your condition, where the 20-year rule protects the rating that has been in place for at least 20 years. Here's a little, I did a video on this not very long ago on Veterans Info Tab, and it's a little twist in the 20-year rule that people don't understand. The example here is you were rated for migraines for 10 years, right? At 10%. Now the 10-year rule comes into place. They're not going to sever your migraines. They can still reduce you, but they're not going to sever you from migraines. You'll always be rated for migraines. Then then you file a claim for increase and you get 30%. And that's for 10 years, okay? Well, you're already protected for migraines, but now you have a 20-year time frame of being rated for migraines. The 20-year rule comes into effect to protect your rating, but not the 30% rating, the 10% rating that you've had for 20 years. You will have to wait another 10 years to have your 30% rating in effect for 20 years before the VA will protect that rating of 30% under the 20-year rule. So just so folks understand that there are different levels of protections at different stages of your VA claims journey. Not everybody's going to reach 100%. Not everybody's going to be 100% permanent and total. But there will be a lot of people in the 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% ranges that will have these other protections in place so you can let your shoulders drop a little bit too. Did you have anything you wanted to add in?
I did. You had said something, and it made me think of my personal friends in my personal life that I know are 100% PNT. I know what they go through just because, we are close friends, so I can tell you exactly what they're rated for. And if you look hard enough, you'll see it. But there is something about them. I'm so glad you brought that up because I don't think people talk about it. You can see this level of stress kind of decrease. Like once they got PNT, it's like, man, dude, they're like, thank you, like, hey, this money is going, like, there's a financial piece. I mean, look at the number one cause of divorce. It goes back to money and social media. Don't even get me going down on that train, right? But money is a huge part of stress in a marriage, of stress in a life, and PNT on its own. So yes, you might be dealing with, 70% for PTSD, migraine, sleep apnea, sinusitis, a left knee, a lower back, which sucks. Don't get me wrong, but there's that. I like how you mentioned the cloak. It's like that weighted blanket of just like, oh yes, dude, like this is, I can work with this, right? And the decrease of stress is worth way more than anything PNT could ever grant you, at least in my opinion. That's all I wanted to add, Jason. And then that's it. That's all I got.